Hey, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. So I just want to apologize because you may feel that I clickbaited you, because in this video I'm actually not going to be giving you 6 different fills like the title may have suggested. Instead, I'm going to be teaching you the concept behind how to create fills using the 6th interval. So instead of just giving you 6 different fills, you can actually take this concept and you can create infinite fills. So that's more than 6. So if you think the title was clickbaity, it's actually a good thing, right? Anyway, so we're going to be talking about the 6th interval today. We're going to be talking about major 6th and minor 6th. So we're only going to be doing this on the G string and the high E string. You can create this interval using any, sets of 2 strings, but we're just going to stick to the G and the high E string. So there's going to be 2 shapes that we look at in this lesson. One's going to be the major 6th and one is going to be the minor 6th. So the major 6th looks like this. One of your fingers is going to be on the G, and then one of your fingers is going to be on the high E string. So that's the same fret, and I like to use my 2nd finger and my 3rd finger to do these. So this is what a major 6th looks like. So you can play this anywhere. So that's major 6th. Minor 6th looks like this. So your 2nd finger goes on the G string, 1st finger goes on the high E string, but 1 fret lower than where your 2nd finger is. So that's a minor 6th. Again, this can be played anywhere. All right, so you have your major 6th and you have your minor 6th. So just a quick bit of theory about why these intervals are important. Why is the 6th interval important? Well, that's because it is the reciprocal of the 3rd. So you may be familiar with the fact that thirds sound melodic together. If you play a note and then you play another note that is a major 3rd higher than it, it's going to have a melodic sound. Or if you play a note and then you play another note that is a minor 3rd higher than it, it's also going to have a melodic sound. It's going to sound a little sadder than the major counterpart, but both are going to have a melodic sound regardless. So let's say we take the note C right here on the 10th fret of the D string, and then I want to play a major 3rd interval above that. So a major 3rd above C is the note E. So here's C, here's E. So if I play those 2 notes together, it's going to sound like this. It has a melodic sound to it. That's what 3rds do. They just sound pretty together. All right, so instead of having C as my lowest note and then E as the note that's higher, what if I wanted to have E as my lower note and then play this C up here? Right, so I'm still playing C and E together, but instead of playing C and E together like this, which would be that root major 3rd connection, I'm instead playing the E here and then the C as the higher note. And that creates what is known as a minor 6th interval. We already talked about this shape right here. This is your minor 6th shape. All right, so let's try one more, but this time we're going to start out with a minor 3rd interval, and then we're going to look at how the reciprocal forms a major 6th. So let's start out with the note A. So we're going to use this note A right here on the D string, 7th fret. And then the minor 3rd would be this note C, which is the 5th fret of the G string. So playing these 2 notes together, you have this sound. It still sounds nice together. It's melodic, but it has that sad minor-y sound to it, right? So that's a minor 3rd interval, A to C. But if I keep that C where it's at and I instead play the A up here, then now we have C as the lowest note and A as the higher note. That forms this major 6th interval. If you're ever unsure about what intervals are, you can always refer to an intervals chart. You can find these on intervals lessons on the Zombie Guitar website. You can find them on Google. You just type in intervals on Google or type in intervals chart and you're going to find something similar to this. So the way that you determine what an interval is you just count the semitones. A semitone is just a half step, which is just 1 fret. So you just count how many frets are in between one note and the next note, and then that gives you the name of the interval that it is. So as an example, let's start off on the C right here, 10th fret of the D string, and then we'll count up how many frets or how many half steps or how many semitones it takes us to get to the E, which we had already determined was a major 3rd interval. So we're starting on C, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so C to E is a major 3rd interval. C to E is a major 3rd interval. It tells you right on this chart, 4 semitones is a major 3rd interval. Let's try it with the A. So we'll start on the A and we'll count up until we get to the C. So A, so 1, 2, 3. All right, so from A to C, that's 3 half steps or 3 semitones or 3 frets. So 3 frets or 3 semitones according to this chart is a minor third interval. Let's go ahead and we'll figure out, major and minor sixth. So let's start on the note E right here, 9th fret of the G string, and we'll keep counting until we get to a C. So here's the E. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so it took us 8 frets or 8 semitones or 8 half steps until we arrived at the C. So starting on E and then counting up until we got to C, that was 8 semitones or 8 frets or 8 half steps. So according to this chart, 8 half steps or 8 semitones is a minor sixth interval. All right, so now that you have a little background info about the theory that goes into these sixths and how they're the reciprocals of their thirds, which is why they sound nice together, because thirds sound nice together, therefore sixths are also going to sound nice together. Let me show you how you can use this stuff to actually create fills. So let's say that we're starting out with a C major chord. So we're going to play a C major chord in its full 6-string bar chord shape, just like this, rooted on the low E string, 8th fret. So right in the C major chord, if you look at the notes on the G and the high E string, you have your minor sixth interval right in there. All right, we already talked about that one. So if I want to create fills off the C major chord, I'm going to do something like this. All right, so how did I know how far to move up? And the answer to that question is you look at this chord, you look at which key that the chord is being used in. You ask yourself, what is the function of the chord in the key that it's being used in? And then what type of 7th chord does that chord represent? I know that can sound like a lot if you're new to sevenths, or if you don't know about 7th chords and how 7th chords are derived from a key. I did a video on that 2 weeks ago. It's called Let's Talk About 7th Chords. I'll post a link to that if you want to check it out. But this C major chord, if we're in the key of C major, that would mean that this C major chord functions as the 1 chord. The 1 chord in any key represents a major 7th chord, not a minor 7th chord, not a dominant 7th chord. It represents a major 7th chord. So that's going to be my starting points, the notes that make up the major 7th chord. So if this is C major, and the notes of a C major 7th chord are C, E, G, B, then that's going to be where my starting points are on the G string. So right here we're on the E, G, B, and then you can even throw in the C as well. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So I'm going to go through a chord progression. I'm going to play a C major to an A minor, to an F major, to a G major, to a C major. Right, so I knew how far to move up each time based off the type of 7th chord that each of these chords represented within the key. So we're in the key of C major. Use your circle of fifths, use your grouping of 6, verify that these are all in the same key, right? Knowing what each of these chords represents as far as the 7th chord goes, the 3 minor chords, they always become minor 7th chords. And then the 2 chords that are on the outer circle center position and outer circle counterclockwise position, those always become major 7th chords. And then your 1 remaining chord that's in outer circle clockwise position, that's always going to be your dominant 7th chord of the key. So that tells you what type of 7ths they are. So on the C major, that's going to be one of the major 7th chords of the key. So if you know your notes of the major 7th chord, C, E, G, B, I'm just focused on the E, G, B part of it though. Same thing with the A minor chord. So this represents a minor 7th chord. So A minor 7. What are your notes of an A minor 7 chord? A, C, E, G. But I'm getting rid of the A part and I'm just focusing on the C, E, G part. So C, E, G. Then we get to our F major chord. So F major chord within this key, in its 7th form, would be a major 7th chord. F major 7th, F, A, C, E. So I'm just worried about the A, C, E part. So here's an A here. Here's a C. Here's an E. All right, and then for the G major chord, this is going to be your 1 dominant 7th chord of the key. Every key has 1 dominant 7th chord. It's always found in the grouping of 6, outer circle, clockwise position. So the notes of a G7 chord or a G dominant 7th chord, G, B, D, F. So starting here, so here's a B, here's a D, here's an F. So that's how I knew how far to move. So all right, so you can throw in these fills as much as you'd like, as little as you'd like. You can mess around with the phrasing, you can mess around with the timing, but just by kind of sticking to this little roadmap that we're creating here, which is a roadmap that is based off the starting chord and then looking at the type of 7th chord that it represents within the key, and then using those notes as your starting points on the G string. That little roadmap here, that's going to keep you very connected to the underlying chords. So you're jumping all around the fretboard, you're string skipping, you're doing all this cool, fancy sounding stuff. It looks fancy to people that don't know what you're doing. But you're essentially just following a roadmap here, and that's what this video is. I'm just trying to give you the roadmap about how to think about this stuff and how to apply it to your own playing. All right, so that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any questions or comments or requests for follow-up on this topic or whatever, just let me know. I'm glad to do it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.